Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Coder. I'm Chris, and today we are going to continue with part 2 of our winning tutorial. Okay, so we've left it off with collecting all of the pellets, and at the end, after collecting all the pellets, we just kind of stop and don't do anything else. But what we're going to do now is we're going to finish some things, and before we can do that, we need to actually make a few changes. That is, we have this maze here that is created of all of these individual game objects. It took us forever and a day to do. And that's great, but we need to be able to flash this entire board, so from blue to white. So rather than recreating all of these in white and flashing every single one of them, I'm going to just do this. We're going to right click and click delete. And we have no more maze. So, to get back to where we need to be with our maze, we're going to do some cool things here. First, we're going to go to the graphics folder. We're not going to need this tile set anymore, so we're going to delete that. There we go. Alright, so the tile set's gone. So now what we need to do is we need a new maze. So I've prepared some assets, and I drew this maze in Photoshop one pixel at a time. So if you know of a better way to do it, feel free to, mention it on here, but I'm going to supply you guys with Photoshop files, and those will just import right into Unity. So I'm going to drag in, I've created a white and a blue one. So I'm going to drag these in. Alright, so we also need to set our pixels per unit to 16. Oops. 16, and we need to set our filter mode to point, and click apply. Alright, so now when we drag out this blue maze, see, it's all one piece, which is really cool. And the location that we're going to want to put this is going to be 13.5 on the X and 17.5 on the Y. Okay? And now we've got our blue maze, and if you'll look close, it looks so much nicer because it's not those crazy weird curves like the other one had. This is actually a pixel for pixel. Which brings me back to my other thing that we're going to do here is, you see these pellets, they're not exactly 8-bit graphics. They look a lot nicer than they should. So we're going to change that. We're going to make them yellow, okay? And I've also created some assets for that. So the pellets themselves, I'm going to try this. I'm going to just try to copy this one into here. And of course, that didn't do it. Let's set this to 16. And no filter. Alright, and we may have to go in here into the pellets and basically select all of the pellets, except for the Energizer ones, and then replace the original sprite with this guy. Alright, and now we see we've got only the nodes left, so we'll replace those as well. So let's go to the nodes, select them all, and then deselect the Energizer pellets, and then just set the sprite to this guy here. And there we go. Alright, so now we've got all of these pellets that are now yellow. We need to do the same thing to our Energizer pellets, so I've prepared another graphic for that. Bring that in. So select these two Energizers, and then, oops, here, let's set this to 16 first. And no filter. And then we'll select the Energizer pellets. And that here. Alright, so that fixed those two. And we need to go back into our non-nodes. Go to the Energizer pellets. And go ahead and replace those. Alright. So now we've got our new board, our new pellets, and everything looks cool. The one thing I do want to change still is I want to change the camera size. So that if you look at our game view, actually, our game view looks pretty good. But let's change the camera size anyways. We're going to go from a main camera size of 18 to a camera size of 16. Okay, and what that does is, if you look at our game view now, we've got, we're a lot closer. So we've got a lot less space. So we're going to have to move some things around in our canvas. So let's look at that. Let's bring our game view out so we can see both. Alright, so we're going to select this and that, and we're going to just, select our transform tool and just move them down to right about there. And then we're going to select all of this. We're going to just move that up to right about there. And then, what else do we have? We're going to do player and ready. We're going to modify those. So the width of player is going to be 240. And the height is going to be 40. And then the font size, let's make that 34. And then for ready, we're going to keep the 280 for the width. We're going to go with 40 for the height and 34 for the font size. And then we, of course, need to reposition these to be more in the center. There's that. And we're going to put the X at negative 154. There, and then we're going to center it here a little bit. There we go. So that looks good. And I think, let's go ahead and put game back in here. We'll go to our scene. And let's zoom in on our maze. And we are going to rename this to maze. Alright, so now if we play the game, it should still be as it was before, although things look a little nicer now. Okay. Alright, so I'm not going to waste anybody's time here playing the game. So the next thing we need to do is we need to actually go into our game script, our game board script, which is in the scripts folder, and open up game board. Okay, so a few things we need to do here is we need to actually okay, so there are a couple of variables that we need to make static. For instance, the player 1 level and player 2 level. Because what happens is when we restart the game, we're actually going to reload the scene. So when we reload the scene, we don't want our levels to be reset to 1. We want our levels to stay at where they were. So we're going to make those static variables. So private static int player 1 level and private static int player 2 level. The pellets consumed, they should go back to 0. The total pellets, that'll go back to 0. The score, which we don't even need anymore, we should probably just get rid of that. Player 1 score and player 2 score, those should be statics. Oops. And because we're referencing these outside of the game board method, we're going to have to make some changes in our Pac-Man script. I think it's just a Pac-Man script, yeah. And yeah, I think that's all it is. We're going to have to make some changes there because we now are going to have to, instead of finding the game object and then referencing the game board component on the game object, we're going to have to actually call just the game board class and reference that variable directly on the class instead because it's a static variable. So the other thing we need to do is we need to create another boolean. We're gonna create that right here, and it's gonna be called should blink. We're gonna set that one to false, and that's gonna control whether or not our board should blink. Okay. So the other thing that we need is we need a timer. Okay. So we need a blinking interval timer. So we're gonna do public float blink interval time. I'm going to set that to 0.1f. And the reason that I'm making it public is so that we can access it in the inspector, so that we can easily change it if we have to. So then we're going to create a private float, and we'll call this blink interval timer. We're going to set that one to 0. And that one is going to just basically keep track of how much time has passed before we need to change our board to white, and then before we change our board to blue, and so on and so forth. And you guys will see all that. All right, so let's fix some errors that are bound to pop up here. So in the Pac-Man script, we've got player 1 score being called here, so we need to actually erase everything up to the dot player 1 score and change it to game board. And we need to do the same thing here. Dot player 1 score, erase all of this and just do game board. And player 2 score, game board. Alright, let's scroll. Player 1 up. So that is it in this script. Let's check the ghost script. Transform. There we go. Player 1 score. So erase everything up to the dot and just do game board. Same thing here. Player 1 score. Game board. Player 2 score. Game board. Oops. Game board. Alright. So, where are we at now? We need to go into our game board class again. And we need to actually create another method for blinking the board. Okay. So first, let's create that method. So let's go up here and right below here, and we'll just do a private void check should blink. All right. So check should blink, and then in the check should blink method, we're just gonna for now do if should blink. All right. So before we do anything else in here, let's go ahead and before yield return wait for seconds in our blink board method, in our enumeration method, we're gonna set should blink equal to true, because at this point, after the ghost sprite render is enabled to set the false and Pac-Man is set the false, we want to start blinking the board. So we start this timer, or not this timer, this boolean, we set it to true, and if this checks to be true, then it's going to start doing our code to blink it, which we still have to fill out. Once we pass the amount of time that the board should blink, which is our delay right here, we're going to say should blink equals false, and then we're going to call start next level, which we don't have yet. So we'll create another method, and we'll call this private void start next level. Alright, and then we're going to call start next level from our blink board method right below should blink equals false. So we're going to do start next level. Alright, so there we are. Now, we need to actually call this check should blink method from our update method. So we're going to go right here. Okay. Check should blink. All right, so we got check should blink. All right, and then what we need to put in the should blink method is we need to check. All right, so we do if blink interval timer is less than blink interval time, okay? Because the blink interval time is how long we want to wait before we blink. The blink interval timer is a countdown to how much time has passed since the last time we blinked. So the blink interval timer, if it's less than the time that we want to use as a blink, then we increment the blink interval timer by time.delta time, okay? So we increment this timer until it's no longer less than, okay? When it is less than, we set it to 0, okay? So basically we're resetting the timer. And then we check to see what our maze currently, and that's the funny part here, is we actually need to create 2 more variables that I forgot. All right, so let's scroll up here. And then we're just gonna, right here, after the audio clip, we're gonna create public sprite maze blue and public sprite maze white. All right, so we've got those 2, and let's scroll back here. We're gonna see if game object find maze dot get transform dot get component sprite renderer dot sprite equals maze blue. Then game object find that's wrong. Game object find maze transform dot get component sprite renderer dot sprite equals maze white. Else, what did I do here? Oh, it's not liking me right now for some reason. If, oh, well that's stupid. Why did I do that? Alright. So if we find out that equals if we find out that the maze, okay, the sprite renderer, the sprite that's currently on, okay, if we find out that that's blue, then we of course want to change it to the white one, right? So, and on the other hand, if it's not blue, then we want to change it to blue. So we do GameObject.find maze transform get component sprite renderer dot sprite equals maze blue. Okay. Why is it upset? It's not happy with something that I'm doing. We'll figure it out. All right. So now we need to actually go into Unity and we need to set our mazes or our maze variables. Okay. So let's go into Unity. And it's not going to let us do anything. unexpected symbol. What is going on here? I'm totally not seeing it. So I'm just going to rewrite it. Sometimes you just rewrite code. If game object dot find maze dot transform dot get component sprite renderer dot sprite equals maze blue else. Alright, so far so good. Game object dot find maze dot transform dot get component sprite renderer dot sprite equals maze white. Oh, I see it now. I put a closing parentheses. That was so dumb. Game object dot find maze dot transform dot get component sprite renderer dot sprite equals maze blue. Alright, now we're good. Let's go into Unity. Errors are gone. That means that we should be able to click on game and see our new variables, which are maze blue and maze white right here. So we're going to go in our graphics folder. I'm going to set maze blue and maze white. Alright. So, with all of that, we should be able to blink. And then when we start the next level, let's go back into our script. So if we scroll down to I've scrolled too far already. Start next level. So really all we need to do in here is scene manager, load scene, level 1. And that should just restart our level. With our, and this is going to be kind of difficult, but we're going to need to actually at some point start with when the level loads. We're going to have to check which level is what the level variable is currently at. And as you'll remember, if you scroll up a little bit, you'll see that when we do player win, if player number equals 1, then we say player 1 level plus plus, else player 2 level plus plus. So it increments our actual level variable. So that level variable gets incremented by 1. And then what we need to do in the start method, which is here, we'll have to, before we call start game, or when we call start game, before maybe, we'll check to see what level we're on. And then we'll have to do certain things depending on the level that we're on. And that's going to be probably adjusting, if we go into the Ghost script, we'll probably have to adjust Pinky's release timer, Inky's release timer, Clyde's, and then we'll probably have to change the scatter mode timer and chase mode timers because, you know, to make the game more difficult. We'll have to change how long frightened mode lasts, you know, that kind of thing, like, because frightened mode duration's 10, and we need to adjust these then once we go to level 2, because level 2 gets harder, and it's just going to keep getting harder and harder and harder. And once you level up so far, there will be no more scatter mode. it'll only be chase mode. So the game just gets incredibly difficult at some point, and the ghosts just get faster. Well, Pac-Man gets faster too, I think. The game just speeds up. We'll have to actually look into the specifics of what they are, but you know what? The tutorials are probably not going to even go that far into it. As far as the tutorial series goes, after this one tutorial, where we do the winning, I think the last thing I'm going to show you is how to actually increment to a second level, which we're already doing, but how to change those values to something different and to indicate that we have a level 2. And after that, maybe the last tutorial I'll do is implementing 2-player game. And once we're done with that, I believe we can call the series to be done. We'll be done with the series, which will be great because that'll be, fun because we'll be able to start something new, which will be exciting because I feel like I've been frigging working on Pac-Man forever now. So let's try this out. Let's hope everything works. Let's hope we didn't forget anything because the only way we can test it is to beat the level. So let's do that. Let's beat this level. And there we go. Don't judge my Pac-Man playing skills. I'm not a Pac-Man master. Ah, I was trapped. Alright. Next. What the hell am I thinking? Alright, so when we get this last pellet, there should be a pause, and then it should start blinking, and then after that the level should restart. Alright, so see how we've still got our score, and it's still incrementing. What? Okay. Alright, so everything is working as expected. The only thing is that in the actual Pac-Man, when the game restarts, it doesn't replay the intro sound. It only loads the board and does the ready, and that's probably, that's going to be pretty simple to do, and we'll check that against just a variable to see what level we're at. If we're on level 1, then we can simply say, hey, play the intro sound. If we are on any other level except for 1, then we can say, oh, well, since we're on level 2, we don't want to play the intro sound. We could probably just go in and do that really quick. Where does the intro sound start? Actually, no, there's some other things we've got to do. So you know what? I'm going to save that for another tutorial. So we'll call it done. Today, we're finished with this one. So, again, shout out for Mark. Thank you for supporting me on Patreon. If you guys like the video, give me a thumbs up. Comments go down below. And what else? Oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe. We're almost at 800 subscribers, which is so close to 1,000. I can't wait. It's gonna be so exciting. And I'll do a special video for 1,000 subscribers. Don't know what yet, but it's gonna be awesome. So again, thumbs up if you like the video. Comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys next week.